But yeah, what I think kept us alive and the doors open is that we were very nimble and very flexible to opportunities that came our way. And it was rare that we said no to an opportunity. It's, you just never know where those are going to take you. So, our goal as a good druggie was to always be taking drugs, in the sense, and the drug being the film, and to, just always keep that process going.
Hey everyone, thanks again for hitting that play button. This is the Dave Bullis Podcast. I'm your host, Dave Bullis. I'm in New York right now. I don't know if you can tell or not by the amount of police sirens in the background, but I'm here for the Robert McKee seminar, and I'll be going into detail all about the seminar on next week's show. But on this week's show, I have David M Latt. David is the co-founder of the Asylum, one of the most prolific independent film studios around. They have won dozens of awards and created such movies as Sharknado, Sharknado 2, Sharknado 3, and the upcoming Sharknado 4, The Fourth Awakens. We're going to talk all about how the Asylum comes up with their ideas and how they market it and how they make money. So here we go, episode 106 with David M Latt.
You're listening to the Dave Bullis Podcast.
Hey, David, thank you very much for joining us today.
Oh, sure. Hey, thanks for having me.
My pleasure, my friend. So David, as the co-founder of the Asylum, you've produced all these films. You have such a really, really long IMDb. As I was looking at, I didn't even know you produced that many movies. So, I wanted to ask, David, how did you get started in the film industry?
Oh, goodness. I lost a bet. Well, I have a very, very, very boring story about that, which is that I just always made movies. I'm the nerdy kid that back in the 70s, yes, I'm that old, that had a Super 8 camera and made a lot of short films. And as my wife likes to point out, the Goldbergs, the TV series, is my family life. That's exactly it. And just always had a passion for directing, producing, telling stories in this medium. And when I was 12, I saw Star Wars, and that kind of changed my life, going, wow, you could actually make money in this business and, tell stories on a mass level. And that kind of just really focused me very acutely to make movies, which for some strange reason in this life, I won the lottery, and I'm allowed to do the things that I love to do, which I know is very rare, and I try not to take advantage of it, but I kind of do. But that's it. I mean, I'm not curing cancer and doing important things. I'm just making movies, being very self-indulgent.
So did you go to film school?
I did. I have a degree, so I'm allowed to make movies. I went to Loyola Marymount University and graduated there with some kind of degree. I can't remember what it was, and I think it was film production something. And here I am today.
You mentioned permission to make movies because, Lloyd Kaufman, when I bought his filmmaking DVD set, it actually came with a degree from Trauma University. And he's just like, just write your name in there. He's like, just write it in with pen and hang it up on your wall, and you can make movies too.
I think Lloyd is probably the greatest human being in the world. So yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
I actually had him on the podcast.
I don't doubt it. Actually had him for dinner a couple weeks ago. So it's one of those weird things like, hey, do you hang out together with filmmakers? And you look back and you go, yeah, I kind of do. It's really a neat, experience to be able to share those moments with people that you put on a pedestal and admire for so long. And you look back and go, wow, they're friends. And Lloyd is his friend and his wife. And it's, he's the real deal. He's an auteur, an independent filmmaker, a guerrilla filmmaker, really enthusiastic, as you know, and genuine, just a sweet man that really loves what he does, which is it's invigorating. It gives me kind of this renewed energy, and I think he's like 103 years old. So it's like to do that at his age, it's crazy.
And now you have another story for when you see him the next time. You could say, hey, remember that shitty podcast we were both on?
Yeah, and he'll say like CNN, and I'll go, no, it wasn't CNN. It was another one. So
The other shitty podcast we were on.
Yeah, that one. Well, yeah, I got it.
Lloyd is an absolutely great guy. But Dave, just to go back to to your career, I wanted to ask, when did you decide that you wanted to start the Asylum?
That's easy. When I got fired from my day job. So, my partner and I, David Ramaui and I, both worked at different businesses. He worked at a company called Village Roadshow, and I worked at a company called Chimera Multimedia. And I was the head of production for that company. And I was there for a couple of years, and I got fired. And I don't know why. If I was sober, I would have known why, but I wasn't. And so to this day, I still don't know why. And David got fired too at the same time, except his firing was much more legitimate. Warner Brothers bought out the company and then went on to produce The Matrix with Village Roadshow, and they've done everything. But so we kind of were let go at the same time, and so we had previously made a couple films, like a film every year and a half, and said, you know what, let's do this legitimately. Let's get into this, and start a company together, and we could actually start making movies. So we did that with another partner, Sherry Strain, who also worked at Village Roadshow. So it was the three of us, and we worked out of David's apartment for the first, 4 years, just doing whatever we could. We were young, we needed the money, and started, actually releasing art house movies. Was our first foray into the business side of business. But that was 19 years ago. That puts things in perspective.
So when you first lost your job, and I'm sure you and your partners were sort of sitting around a table, so discussing what to do. Did you just decide? Did you make a list like, hey, this is the resources I have available now. This is how much money I have, and just try to go from there?
No, we're not that smart. We all three of us had a passion of making movies, and we knew that's what we wanted to do. And I think had we put together a real plan, we would be a lot more successful now, because I think we kind of started around the same time Lionsgate did, except they had a plan. So if you want to put things in perspective about where things, how things could have been. I think Netflix started around the same time too. It's one of those things of, we just wanted to not be homeless. So we just, I immerse myself in. I'm a workaholic, so I do, and I love making movies. So on a set, I've done everything and continue to do everything in a lot of ways, and enjoy every aspect of it. And from catering to boom op to camera, whatever it is, I've touched it in some particular way. So it didn't matter what we were doing as long as we were making movies. And initially, it was I was an editor, so I was cutting trailers and promo things for clients that Ramaui was bringing in. David Ramaui is more the business side of things, and I'm more the creative part side of things. As I always like to say, he finds the money, I spend the money, and we both enjoy what we do. So he would find work, and I would do the work. And that's kind of the way it went. He kind of got this great opportunity where his old boss at Village Roadshow started a thing called First Rights, which was being set up in their native country in Australia, first-time filmmakers with an exclusive output every month to one of the largest video distributors in Australia. And they were looking for an American partner. So David Ramaui became that bridge between Australia and America, and we created an output deal with Hollywood Video, which was the second largest chain in America at the time. And every month we would release art house movies from first-time filmmakers to the tune of about 6 to 10 every single month, and that increased to 15 to 20 at a certain point. We had hundreds of titles. It was a very successful program for about 3 or 4 years, and that was what our life was. And what got us back into film production is that when we saw the writing on the wall that was kind of waning and we needed to kind of diversify, we went to Blockbuster and started a relationship with Blockbuster, not with First Right. They said, look, if you can come up with a film a month, for us to distribute on the horror side of things, the genre, not the art house, we'll take them. And so we started finding movies, but the problem was we were competing against Lionsgate and other big companies that were offering minimum guarantees to filmmakers that we couldn't do, so we couldn't come up with a product. And at a certain point, we went, well, we're filmmakers. Let's try and find an angel investor to bankroll specific movies for Blockbuster, these cheap horror films. And we did. We found someone to give us, I think, $500,000, and that bankrolled the first 10 movies. And by that time, because we were releasing a film every single month, it caught up to after about 5 or 6 months, it caught up to the investor and to us, and we were cash flowing our films. And so for the first 10 years of our business life, we were a cash flow company primarily, where money coming in would go to fund the next project going out. And we're still to that degree, somewhat to that degree, although we're a little more financially sophisticated at this point with all the employees we have and the products that we make and everything else. But fundamentally, it's the same kind of business. But yeah, what I think kept us alive and the doors open is that we were very nimble and very flexible to opportunities that came our way. And it was rare that we said no to an opportunity. It's you just never know where those are going to take you. So, our goal as a good druggie was to always be taking drugs, in the sense, and the drug being the film, and to, just always keep that process going. And that led us into the business that we're in now. And it's not for everybody. Sherry ultimately left the company because she actually wanted to make, I guess, quality films, and saw herself more, in the art house world or bigger shows, which is fantastic. And she left about 12 years ago. And then we brought in a guy named Paul Bales. We still don't know what he does, but he does. Oh, wait, you're looking at me right now. So Paul Bales used to work over at SAG for about 10 years over there, and came into the Asylum, became a partner at the Asylum, simply because he just slept with the right people, because Paul and Ramaui were childhood friends in Michigan, growing up in Michigan, also with the same background of making movies when they were young, and Super 8 cameras and all that stuff. We all share that kind of same initial passion. And Paul's been very valuable to the company. He's the guy who says no. He acts as kind of our CFO to everything, and really regulates how things are done. So, that kind of control has really, aggressively grown the company in very wonderful ways, because we're not just out, partying and being crazy and wild. We're actually being responsible human beings that have a payroll and insurance, and he's made us legit, which is kind of cool. I just answer really long, don't I? Question.
No, it's
yes
not,
and no. I'm sorry. Yes and no. That's it. From now on.
There's a funny side note between yes and no. I had a friend of mine. He interviewed. Remember Biz Marquis?
Well, of course, he was in Sharknado too.
That's right. He was. He actually interviewed him for his podcast, and he said Biz literally answered everything with yes or no, because my friend shot himself in the foot right out of the gate. The first thing he says is, "Hey, remember you say she's just a friend?" And Biz goes, "Yes." He goes, "But I've done other things besides she's just a friend." And through the rest of the podcast, he's just answering yes or no. And my friend was like, "Can you elaborate?" And Big was like, and Biz was like, "No."
God. Well, it was a no, yes or no. And I'm sure with Biz it was more like, yeah, no, no, yeah. Oh man, so, I don't have a bigger job.
On your IMDb, I know you mentioned that the Asylum. No movie has ever lost money from the Asylum. I mean, I wanted to ask you. So, using that structure of never losing money, do you write the script with a producer's hat mainly, so that way okay, look, I'm not going to include things that are just way too outlandish, and we can't actually do, or do you sort of do that at the later point? So you're sort of always making sure that the movies don't sort of get, you know what I mean, out of control.
Okay, so there's a couple things going on there. So this will also be another long answer, so just be prepared. You can go to the bathroom, and I'll just keep talking. Which is, if you've ever seen one of our films, we do not limit ourselves with, this has to be 4 actors in a room talking about, the monster outside in the hallway. that will never happen. And when people, try and solicit scripts to us or pitch it, it's like, oh, it's a perfect Asylum movie. It's 4 guys in a room talking about a monster and, that's in the closet. It's like that. It's obvious you've never seen an Asylum film because we never go there. I mean, I don't think we've ever had the discussion of we can't do it, which, is part of the charm of the Asylum films that you watch because they really go pretty far, with everything, concept, execution, story-wise, and you can't really contain it. We're not making a low-budget film. We're just making a big-budget film on a budget. So, and we'll figure out a way to do it. We have, at this point in our careers, we have everything's in-house. So we have a whole room full of visual effects artists, and we have a whole room of sound designers, we have a whole room of editors, we have a whole room of everything. So, there's nothing that we really can't do. We just run out of time sometimes. So, it may look a bit cheaper. We may be cutting corners here. There are tricks we do to make it look bigger when it's really not bigger. And so when we can't afford it. So we never story-wise limit ourselves to anything. And the only time we ever really felt nervous was doing Titanic 2 because we knew doing these big ocean sets and doing water were very difficult for us. We hadn't done them well in the past, and I just was looking at that going, really, Titanic 2? My partners had pre-sold it, and that was the film we were making, and I was really nervous about doing it. But I'm like, no, we're gonna still jump into it. We're still gonna try. And I think Titanic 2 is a success story. Certainly, just the way it's sold and all that stuff, but just story-wise, it's a fun story, and it's a big story. And it looks great. I'm very proud of the film. And, it's because we didn't limit ourselves. And we made it all work. We had tanks. We were drowning people. We shot at the Queen Mary, which is out here in Los Angeles, to have that look. We shot the submarine. We shot, it's like, and yet we still didn't spend any more money than we had. And that kind of leads into why we haven't lost any money. The Asylum is very rare in the business. Usually it's your distributor, your sales agent, or your production company, and they don't mix. We're all those things. Forget the sales agent, but we're distributor and producers, which makes us a studio. I mean, we're the only difference between us and like the majors is we don't have a rodent for a mascot. We don't have an amusement park. I mean, which is really where you make the money. But it's we do everything they do, which means that we pre-sell things, to what we make. And so if we know that a film is going to make $1 million because we pre-sold it, it's my task as a producer not to make it any more than that $1 million or less because we have whatever our overhead is. So if our overhead is another $100,000, so if I make it for more than $900,000, we're screwed. We've lost money. Or whatever the budget is, $500,000, $250,000, $5 million. But I have my constraints. Those constraints are limiting, but they're also really exciting too, because it makes you have to really think how to produce a show for no money. And when I say no money, you're like thinking, oh, well, you just said $1 million. Well, we shot films for $15,000. We've shot films for $100,000, $500,000. I mean, we've gone all over the place up to, a few $1 million with the Sharknado series. And then certainly our TV series ain't cheap. It's cheap in the television standard of things, but not cheap for the Asylum. It's a very expensive endeavor. So we haven't lost money because I won't spend more than we have. It's a really odd concept. It's not the way the film business works, and we get into big arguments with other people about it in the studios and whatnot. But it's or other producers that want to produce at a bigger level. But it's just us. I mean, at the end of the day, we're still working out of, mentally we're still working out of an apartment and trying to live paycheck to paycheck. It's just now we have a staff of 42 that have insurance and pension and health and payroll and, 2 big studios and sound stages and equipment and all that stuff. And it's a little bit bigger but it's still the same feeling of we have to make X amount of money in order to keep the doors open. We've been lucky. We've had some great breaks and great opportunities over the last number of years, and so we've been able to keep people employed, and then we produce 2 films a month, including and then on top of that, the TV series. So that's another 50 to 100 people every month. It's great. It's great to surround yourself with people that are very passionate about things and love the business and want to succeed. Are you back from the bathroom yet? Should I wait?
Yeah, I just got back actually.
Okay, go. Okay, didn't hear the flush.
Yeah, it's actually it's down the hallway, so I
got it. You put it on mute. I get it, and I appreciate it.
Yeah. So, Dave, I wanted to ask, when you're making films, obviously, you were talking about your criteria and everything like that. But I mean, do you have a lot of brainstorming sessions where you kind of just want to come up with, maybe something like, someone's never seen before? Or, do you sort of have like meaning like people in a room just sort of throwing out different ideas, and when something finally, hits, you sort of start developing that idea?
No, we're very boring. I mean, let's be very clear. We are, because, the networks, our partners, our buyers tell us what to make. That's why we don't take pitches. And that's the one thing. It's like, in Twitter, and I've started getting much more active on my Twitter page. I'll get at least 10 to 20 solicitations a day going, hey, I wrote a script, or I have a novel, or I have an idea. And I have to say, look, we don't do that. We're probably the only studio in town. We don't take pitches. We don't take submissions. We don't read novels. We don't care, because when sci-fi tells us to go make a film about a shark in a storm, we're not going to have that script in the ready. We have to go manufacture that script. We turn around to our writers, our development team, and we produce that. We find it. We make it. So it's very, very rare that someone comes to us with a project. The only time I can think that it really happens and happens successfully would be Nick Carter with Dead 7, where he, came to us and said, frickin' Nick Carter, it's hard to say no. Plus he bought us lunch, we're going to say yes to anything. But he said, look, I'm a huge fan of the Asylum. I'm a huge fan of this genre, the zombie genre, and I'm going to come to the table with some money. I'm going to come to the table with all my Backstreet Boy band members, and I'll get some NSYNC guys, and I'm going to give you a genre that you could sell, which is zombies. Now, we wouldn't have gone forward if we didn't turn around at that point to Sci-Fi and said, hey, look, we have this particular project. We don't necessarily do this, but this kind of came to us. Are you interested? And they said yes. If they would have said no, then we wouldn't have done it, because we're just not in that business to take scripts and solicitations and submissions. But we found a partner that was willing to kind of say, yes, we will give this film a home at the end of the day and promote it and do what we're going to do. So that's when we were able to work with Nick and to make it happen. And, I'm really happy that we did. I'm very proud of that film too. I think it came out really nice. Now, when you say, where's the creative elements come into this thing, and, the fun and the rolling up the sleeves, that happens after the script is written, when, you've given the studio or your partner what they want on this page, which is great. And then you get to talk to the filmmakers about what the style is going to be and how we're going to approach this and what we're going to do and what's unique about the show that we're going to do. I mean, the one thing that I think you can't look at the Asylum movies and say they're all cookie cutter in the same films, because we hire auteurs and we hire real, people with strong visions and people that really want to create something that's unique and fun and interesting, and not just cookie cutter and master shot close up. I mean, they're really trying to make something special, and so that's when you really get into it and go, how do we make this special and unique and fun for the audience and enjoyable, while maintaining what the story line's going to be for our buyer, and make that happen. I'm a firm believer that you have a thriller and the heroine and the villain and whatnot, but you have those structural things that you could really do crazy stuff. Go nuts and go crazy. I mean, there's no reason not to. The audience wants to see it; they want to be engaged, and the filmmaker wants to do it; they want to be engaged. And you have to kind of know your audience too. I mean, we're gonna we're going to go nuts and crazy on, if Lifetime wants, because we do a lot of stuff for Lifetime, but, we have to keep it in the realm of Lifetime. We can't shoot it black and white and, close up of a vase and go, that's your thriller. You have to, know the audience a little bit, but otherwise, these guys all want to have, make a really engaging movie, and that's where we have fun with the toys and get into the creative part of it.
So I have to ask, David, what did Nick Carter buy you for lunch?
Pizza. He actually
nice.
Came in and got everyone from the office pizza. Came in with caterer, and he wined and dined everybody. So we couldn't say no. It was a very unique approach to it, to getting our attention. But and truth be told, he didn't have to do anything. We're all old enough where Backstreet Boys and that group was a big deal and still is. And he's just a super nice guy. So it's hard to say no to Nick.
I was going to say I'll make sure to edit that out because in case he wants to buy you pizza again, I should probably.
He doesn't have to. You don't have to edit it.
You briefly mentioned Sharknado, and when that movie came out, when Sci-Fi Channel came to you about putting sharks in a storm, did you ever imagine that it was going to sort of hit as well as it did?
Yeah, we're freaking geniuses. We know everything, and it's really weird. We were 100% on everything. No. By the time we made Sharknado, I think we made 150 movies, and Sharknado was just one of them, and it was stupid. And I, the first minute that I did not understand the script, I didn't get it. But Sci-Fi loved the script when it was written, and they were just like, they couldn't get enough of the script. And so my role as a producer is not to get in the way, of what the buyer wants. And so sometimes I push back, but I was so lost with it. I'm like, how does this work? And he goes into the shark and the chainsaw, because we don't make comedies. As much as you might want to think that we make comedies. Now we do in the sexy comedies, but we really, lean heavily in the sexy, not the comedy. But on all these monster shows and creature shows, everyone takes it very seriously. There's no one's winking to the crowd, to the audience. And you have Sharknado, which is a huge wink, and it can be played that way, certainly. And on the script, it reads comedy. And I'm like, we got it. I had pages of notes to get back there and really kind of get more serious and more grounded and more believable and authentic and everything else. But because Sci-Fi loved the script so much, I completely backed off and said, all right, well, this is our buyer and they want this and they love it. So I'm not going to push the issue. And I really didn't think much of anything. And we had a bit of a time casting it because no one wanted to be in a film called Sharknado. Tara Reid signed up first, but I don't even know if she even knew that she was in a film called Sharknado. And that's not to say that she, I know where the jokes are with that, but she's a busy person. And I think her people just kind of said, look, you're doing this film. They're going to pay you X amount of money. You're in it for a week. Just go and shoot this thing. It's good, money that when you go to Barbados, you could, spend on bikinis and Mai Tais. And so I'm sure for hers, that was just a quick and easy pay thing. But we couldn't find the lead. And we went through, in the history of the Asylum, from then from beginning until even now, we've never had to push a title, push because of cast. And we had to do that for Sharknado. We could not find a lead for Sharknado because no one wanted to be in a film called Sharknado. So ultimately, we retitled it to a film called Dark Skies and repackaged it. We had previously even gone to Ian Ziering, but he turned us down. But we called it Dark Skies, and we got Ian Ziering. We paid him a lot more money than we anticipated, at first on the first offer. And halfway through it, the show, they heard rumors that it was actually called Sharknado. And Ian stayed in his trailer and called his agent and said, I want off the show. All the cast basically said we are not going to be, and I got calls from the agents and lawyers, managers going, you cannot call this film Sharknado. We will not allow you to. If you want these actors to be in this film, basically our threat was all right, then we'll recast, we'll redo the whole thing. But we're we're calling it. Actually, our stance was we don't know what it's going to be called, which is true because sci-fi could have changed it to anything. That's not up to us; it's up to sci-fi. If they want to call it, this is the crappiest film in the world, they can call it that. That's up to them. We're not going to pigeonhole them into what the title is going to be. So. There's a chance they'll call it Dark Skies. There's a chance they're going to call it Sharknado. There's a chance they're going to call it Shark in the Storm. Who knows what they're going to call it? But let's go back to work. So it took a few hours, but everyone went back to work. But they were really pissed off that it was called Sharknado. I think the only one that wasn't upset was John Hurd. I think, he got it from the get-go. He was excited that it was called Sharknado. He thought that this was going to be a big hit. You talk to him and he knew it all, which is great. He probably does or did at the time because the man's insanely smart and he's been in the business forever, so he probably knew that we had lightning in the bottle. But he might have been the only one. I don't think anyone else did. I think everyone just looked at it as either a forgettable movie that no one's going to give a rat's ass about, or it's going to destroy their career. I mean, those were the only two choices on a film called Sharknado.
It's like Snakes on a Plane when they were going to change the name to the Terror on Flight whatever,
right?
And then it became back to Snakes on a Plane.
Yes, and I mean I know that happened with a film we did called Mega Shark versus Giant Octopus. Debbie Gibson had never really done a film before, and her manager basically said, "Look, just do this film. No one will care. It'll be a forgettable movie. At least then you'll have something on your resume and you'll move on." And for us at the time, Mega Shark versus Giant Octopus was the biggest film we'd ever done. It became a huge cult success. Not like Sharknado. Nothing is like Sharknado. But big enough where we're like, oh, my gosh, this is phenomenal. You look at us. We're a Jeopardy question and a crossword puzzle in the New York Times. And this is bizarre and fun. And not knowing that Sharknado was right around the corner, we thought that would be on the in the obituary. The producer of Mega Shark versus Giant Octopus died today suddenly. But now it'll definitely be Sharknado. Maybe Z Nation. I don't know.
Now Sharknado 4 is due out, I believe, in June, correct?
July 31st.
July 31st. So is there anything? I know you can't go into specific details, but is there any even little tidbits that you can sort of mention on the show right now?
Yeah, there will be sharks. There will be tornadoes. There will be Ian Ziering. Probably all the spoilers I can give you. It's a challenge.
I do like the title, by the way.
It's a challenge because Thunder, the writer, has set the bar so high with all the fun gags and the fun things and the tweetable moments and whatnot. So, you never want to go into these projects trying to do less than what the last film was. So, I hope that we got there. I think that we did. I think there's some really fun, like, holy crap moments in the film. We're done shooting. We're just editing now. And I think it's coming together really quite fun. I mean, but how do you top sharks in space? I think we have an answer to that. So hopefully the audience will agree.
And I do like the title, the Fourth Awakens.
Yes, that was courtesy of Sci-Fi.
I will make sure to link to that in the show notes as well. That the premiere of Sharknado 4, and that will be on Sci-Fi, correct?
Right, Sci-Fi. It's a Sunday night this year, which is I think really exciting. I think they're leaning into the family time. I think they, after doing a lot of kind of who watches the show, they understand that it's really a wide range. It's not their typical sci-fi audience, like 50-year-old men that are longing for Stargate. I mean, it really hits a big swath of demographics. We have so many kids that are Sharknado fans. So many kids. Oh my God, my kids haven't even watched it. I mean, they haven't, and they're like 25 years old. No, they're not that old. But it really ranges on the age thing. So I think Sunday night's a perfect night for it. Very excited. I think they're gonna pull the stops out. They're gonna do a lot of fun stuff. It's great that they're still supporting the show after 4 years. It's bizarre, in fact, how much support they're putting into it. But we're very grateful, and they're amazing partners.
And just like your Twitter bio, you mentioned your kids. In your Twitter bio, you have, of course, my kids tell their friends I work at Walmart.
Right. I think they would like that better because they would get the swag, the pajamas and the shirts and stuff. They like wearing that stuff. Like I said, they haven't seen my movies, but they do like, wearing Sharknado shirts. That's for sure.
Yeah, I saw the Sharknado pop vinyls, and I was like, wow. I was like, this movie has really arrived. And I even had Andrew Schaefer on the podcast, and he wrote the book, How to Survive a Sharknado.
Right. And that was a New York Times bestseller, for God's sake.
Yes, it was.
Crazy. Yeah, it's as my partner Paul always says, it's like prior to Sharknado, you told people what you do, and then you tell them, it's like, oh great, what films do you produce, and they look at you like you've talking in a foreign language, but at least you could say Sharknado, and everyone kind of goes, oh okay, yeah, I haven't seen it, but I heard about it, which is great. How many filmmakers get that opportunity? We've made a lot of movies, and just it's fun to play in that space and whatnot. But even Thunder kind of kicked me in the nuts with it and said, well, look, you go to bat 150 times, you're bound to hit a home run. I'm like, okay, thanks.
We mentioned this briefly about one of your other projects, which is Z Nation, and I've actually had Dr. Murch on the podcast, Lisa Cronado.
Sure.
And I did, think that it was very interesting that, the Asylum did make a TV show because, like you said, it is expensive because, instead of just being, one product like a Sharknado, it's episodic. There's so many episodes per season. So what I wanted to ask, is, what was the impetus to start a TV show by the Asylum?
Well, we've been recently circling in that space because that's where the world's going. I mean, 3 years ago, you had 200 TV series that were available. Now there's over 500. I mean, there's a lot of content out there, and everyone's turned to TV because there's no DVD market, there's no Blu-ray market, there's no VOD market. The one-offs that we do, no one wants in the sense that they wanted it, a few years ago. So, if we want to survive, we have to figure out what is making money, and series are, we think is making money. We haven't seen that yet on our end, but we've been told that you can make money in a TV series. And so, we've been circling that wagon for a very long time, and nothing really stuck. But we pretty much are convinced that the thank you from Sci-Fi for producing Sharknado and doing the ratings that it did, because it broke records on their network, and it became a big success for them, at that station. The thank you was here to do this series. Even though we've been pitching for a while, they kind of called up and said, hey, okay, take those pitches aside, but you did this movie for us a number of years ago called Zombie Apocalypse. Well, it was our third highest rated show, and we're in the market to do another zombie, to do a zombie series, and we think that could translate well into a TV series. And from what we hear now, on the back end of it is that, we got really lucky because that they ordered 13 episodes off the bat. They didn't do a pilot like a normal network would do. So they really were very happy about Sharknado, I guess, ultimately. And so we were able to, out the bat, get a 13 episode commitment, which was really helpful for us. And the show found its voice very early on. The creator of Zombie Apocalypse also, co-created Z Nation. We also brought in Carl Schaefer, who's a veteran in this business, has been doing it for decades, and was Sci-Fi's top choice to be our quote-unquote showrunner. I say that in quotes because it's not a legitimate title anywhere, but the showrunner is like the main producer, guru, person that kind of drives the show. And Carl is just, I don't even understand him. I thought I was a workaholic, but he makes me lazy like my kids. I mean, they're, just sleeping all the time. His work ethic is bizarre to me, where he is just 24/7, working on Z Nation. But he really created the voice and the look and the style with his team, and both him and Craig Engler, who was the other co-creator. And hey, I've always said that if I wasn't producing the show, I'd be a fan of the show, because it's so fun. The cast is so great. The scripts are phenomenal. The production is amazing. I mean, there's just it hits in all cylinders. So grateful for that show, and it happens to be Sci-Fi's #1 scripted series. So it's working on that level too, which is great.
And like you just said, David, there's so much content out there now. That's sort of what everyone's been sort of gunning for now, is a TV show. You see top actors in TV shows now, and now, everyone's creating their own original content, and most of the time it's, a TV show. Yeah. I mean, it's because that's where the interest is. People's viewing habits have changed. They're now binge watching, which is a thing. I mean, and I know your audience, of course, I think it's the only way, everyone that's younger than I am, which is a lot of people here in this office, don't even own a television set. They have a computer and they binge watch. They wait until it's on Netflix and they watch 13 episodes of something. So it's a tough, strange, bizarre world that no one has an answer to and how to navigate. And we're just kind of all like, zombies slowly walking towards, a goal. We just don't know what that goal is at the moment. It'll clear up in a few years, but for now, it's like, okay, everyone's thinking this is what we need to do, which is create television content, 13 plus episodes, and so we're doing it. And we'll see if it's fruitful, or if we close our doors because we're going to go bankrupt. But those are all real possibilities. I mean, we're playing at a higher level now, and it's tough. It's really tough. Very true. Very true. David, I know we're starting to run out of time now, and I know you have to run. So I wanted to, just ask one final question in closing. Oh, by the way, David, before I forget, the number one question that came in, you've already answered, and that was, how do I pitch a movie to Asylum? Yeah, and I get that a lot, and I feel so bad, but it's like, we're not in that business, and I know everyone's struggling out there, and I know they want a piece of something, a success of something, and I'm just not in the position, unless you're part of a boy band, I guess. That's the one asterisk to it. If you're part of a boy band, probably I'll do something, but outside of that. Well, Nick Lachey did tweet me, so I guess he'll be in touch. Excellent. In closing, Dave, if I could just, one final question, and that would be, is there any sort of piece of advice or anything that we didn't cover that you wanted to sort of mention that we didn't get a chance to sort of put a period at the end of this whole conversation? Well, I will say that I'm grateful for the fan base out there. We seem to be hitting some kind of chord, and it's just really neat. And jumping into the Twitter space, it's amazing, because I've been so insulated, and so to see that there's people actually interested in what we do, it's bizarre. So thank you to everyone that has feels that way, and screw you for those that don't feel that way. For those that really want to kind of get into the business and to follow the passion, it's very hard path to take, but it's fun. The biggest advice I can give, what I try and give when people ask me the question is, how do you do X, Y, and Z, is meet a lot of people. Just meet a lot of people. Go to parties, go to seminars, go to festivals. This business is all about relationships. It's rarely by sending a resume to anyone. So you have to, just keep putting yourself out there and shaking hands and being a politician and just getting yourself out there. That's like the biggest thing. So, and then the last thing is just on a personal level, for those that want to engage in the conversation about Asylum stuff and what's going on here, please follow me on Twitter. I'm at David M Latt, and I pretty much talk to everybody on there because I have no life if I'm not producing a film. I'm usually on Twitter, answering questions and talking to everybody. And it's fun. I enjoy it. I noticed you're very active on Twitter, David, and I'm very active on Twitter as well. But you're even more active than I am, and that's how we actually met, again, on Twitter.
That's right.
And, you made that mistake of saying, sure, I'll come on your podcast. And now
Sure.
you're going to regret that.
Nah, not at all. I enjoy it. Unless this is all about neo-Nazism and I forgot, and to look do the research. It's like, hey, no. It's
exactly
cool.
Right. Exactly. Do the research. Like, well, who is this?
So
kid
how do
again?
you feel about Adolf as a name? No, it's not good. It's not good.
How did I get on here again?
Yes, the problem of being my own publicist.
David, I want to say thank you very much. And everyone listening, I'm going to put all of the show notes. So I'm going to link to David's Twitter as well. You can always find me at DaveBullis.com. Twitter, it's at Dave_Bullis. David Michael Latt, I want to say thank you very much for coming on, sir.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. And we're all going to check out Sharknado 4, which is going to be premiering in July on the Sci-Fi Channel. I'm going to link to everything on that as well. I want to wish you the best of luck with all the future projects of Asylum.
Thank you. Call anytime.
Take care, David.
All right, you too. Bye, Dave.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Find Dave at davebullis.com. Please make sure to subscribe and share the podcast.